Hello, everyone, and welcome to Facts Supporting Life. Thank you very much for joining me today. My name is Ingrid. I am continuing on the subject of death. This is going to be video part 2. Video part 1, we talked about what is death and why we die. And so we did talk about separation, dysfunction, and removal of beings from the will of God. We are continuing from why we die. We are continuing from ignorance. We did end there that we are ignorant, and that is the reason why we die. And so what we were going to talk about today was going to be what it is that we are ignorant of. So the knowledge that we lack, the knowledge that we have rejected, the wisdom of God that we need, that we are rejecting. So that is where we're going to continue from today. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started. I will be brief on this, mainly because of the topics that I'm going to be talking about on this list are already subjects that we're going to be addressing here at Facts Supporting Life. Some of them already been addressed, so you may check other videos that I've already made here at Facts Supporting Life that may be tied to the topics that I'm going to be talking about as the list of the things that we are ignorant of. So the very first thing that we are ignorant of is God, who God is, and what His will is. Now, we have already addressed the will of God here at Facts Supporting Life, but we have not spoken much about who God is. That is another subject that's going to be coming. But it's very important that you know who God is. Now, God is love. Anything that has to do with love has to do with God. If you perverting love, you are trying to pervert the very nature of who God is. So that's one of the things that we need to be looking into. And most people are not comfortable with this, and I know why. We don't want to be told that what we are is not what God wants us to be. We want to be in a right standing with God. I think that is something that is engraved in us. It's part of who we were created to be in right standing with God, to be in right standing with this love. As we know, we need love, we give love, but we do not manufacture love. So we will be addressing that on who God is. God is the creator of all things. It seems like all creation knows that. Look at Job 12:7-10. It seems like all things know that God is the creator of this, but somehow us, mankind, we lack that knowledge. I believe we have that knowledge intuitively. It's just we suppress intuition so much, especially today. We are told to suppress intuition. And really embrace our five senses, even though science has proven the weakness on our five senses, but somehow that's better than intuition. But we are also ignorant of what His will is, that God is a good God. He wants good things for you, not bad things. God does not want you dead. In other words, God does not want you separated from Him. He doesn't want you removed from His will. He did not create you to remove you from His will. But the power of the authority that you have submitted yourself to is the one that is being removed from the will of God. And so the body of that authority will be removed with that head. So we'll be addressing that as well. Another thing that we are ignorant of is the fallen state. We are ignorant that we are fallen. Listen to what David said here in Psalms 51:5. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother conceived me. Mankind in general is just ignorant of the fallen state. Even me, I was completely ignorant of the fallen state. It took me forever to get to the point where I have a revelation of a fallen state to some extent. So I think mainly it's because, we are sheltered. The grace of God has sheltered us from the reality of our fallen state. Majority of us, when we come to the reality of our fallen state, we're more likely to be suicidal. It is really, really devastating to come to the realization of a fallen state. I always actually liken it to, a gene mutation, the damaged gene. A fallen state is like that gene mutation. Now, if you do have gene mutation, that means you are at a higher risk for having cancer, for dying of cancer. It doesn't mean that you have cancer, it just means you have a higher risk. You're more prone to having cancer than everyone else. That is how you're supposed to be looking at a fallen state. It is not evil, but it makes you prone to evil. In other words, you are corrupted enough to be more prone to be evil. So people will always look into, well, I can eat, I can jump, I can walk, so therefore there's nothing wrong with me. And the doctor said, well, you have a gene mutation and you're more prone to cancer. It doesn't mean that you're dying of cancer, it just means you're prone to cancer. Same thing, fallen state, it doesn't mean you're evil, it just means you're prone to evil. Another thing that I always liken the fallen state is HIV. It is a virus that attacks your immune system, right? We know that. If it's left untreated, then, it's going to devastate your immune system. And that's what AIDS is. And AIDS is evil, right? Nobody wants to have AIDS. But apparently, if you have HIV, today especially, we know very well that we can treat it, we can monitor that, we can work with it. And so much so that people are living a healthy, good life. I had a coworker who was HIV positive, fine, vibrant, very, and he was just letting me know in that way, since we work closely in so many ways, so I will be aware just in case anything happens, and I'm aware exactly what his situation is, but he was fine. They take those cocktails that treats that HIV, and it keeps that HIV in check. In that way, it doesn't devastate your immune system, right? It doesn't totally destroy your immune system, and then now you will be dying because there's nothing that can be done for you if that's the case. So it's both, actually. The fallen state, it's both. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, it works like HIV and it works like a gene mutation. If it's left untreated, you see, if you're not aware that the law is here to help you, guide you, treat this, you have to watch what you are watching, who you hang around with, how you interact with other people, and how you deal with people. You still need to be very much so mindful of these things and be watching yourself and be guiding yourself. No, and now at least you know why. It makes it easy. I think that's a reason why when you're a Christian, you've already renewed your mind. When you do these things, you know why. When you die to the flesh, you know what that means. It just means you're treating. You are submitting yourself into the authority that comes from Christ. You're not allowing this flesh, because the flesh is not redeemed, right? It has not been redeemed. So you're not allowing this flesh go on and on and on. Shorten your life here carnally, and then you're gone. And the things that God has for you, installed for you, and He wants to, He called you for, you're not able to do because sin now has, gotten away, has taken you, and you're gone, right? There's nothing you can do after that. Another thing that we are ignorant of course, since we are ignorant of our fallen state, is that we cannot fix it. We cannot fix a fallen state. Allah does not fix the fallen state. It treats the fallen state, just like that HIV, and as you take the cocktail medicine, at least you're keeping that HIV in check, but you're not actually getting rid of that HIV. It's still there. It's still going to function the way it's supposed to. And some people think that when they cheat on the law, then somehow, as long as nobody can see, right? Because that's another thing we do. especially religious people, they know what the law is for. So they go ahead and cheat as long as people don't see, and as long as what they do is behind closed doors, and somehow they think, well, that's okay. No, the law is just there to treat the problem, not to, it diagnose the problem and just help you treat the problem. It doesn't get rid of the problem. It's not the cure. It's showing you, it's pointing you to the cure, and it's preserving you enough to get to the cure, because some of us will not even get to the cure, will have never gotten to the cure, to be honest with you, if the law was never introduced and diagnose us, and then show us a better way to go ahead and be in compliance with it. In that way, we minimize the effect of a fallen state in us. And so, yes, you cannot save yourself. Christ came, and He's the only one that brought salvation, nothing else. You cannot meditate your way to salvation, unfortunately. That is a lie. We have to be blunt sometimes. That is just a straight up lie. That is not going to treat your fallen state in any way, form. Your fallen state is spiritually there. So first and foremost, if you're in denial of your soul, I don't know how you're going to be able to say, well, then you are in a fallen state. Because the reason why you're in a fallen state is because it started with your soul as it get disconnected from God, separated from God. So let's move on. Another thing that we are ignorant of is that we are one. We are ignorant that we are one body. This is Acts 17:24. And He has made from one blood every nation of man. That means that God has made from one blood every nation of man that you see. That was Paul talking to the, I'm trying to remember, was it, I believe it was the Greeks in Athens. So he was addressing, because they're very religious folks, so they were believing in all kind of gods, even in a God unknown. So that's the part that's hilarious about that. But he was just telling them that God, this one God that we worship, has made every nation of men, all of humankind, all humans that you see here, from one blood. And we are one. So if you're ignorant of how things are structured in the will of God, that there is authority and then there is a body, that body submits itself to authority, of course you'll be ignorant that we are one. And you will also be ignorant that we have an adversary, and how the adversary became an adversary, and how does that work. What limits this adversary, and what empowers this adversary. Again, these are things that we need to be addressing and looking into. From a Christian perspective, I've seen so many believers being in denial of this adversary as an entity that operates on its own. They believe that God somehow empowers Satan and gives him, direction and tell him what to do. So they don't understand that Satan has his own will. It says it here, 2 Timothy 2:26. Then that he has taken us captive to his will, not to the will of God. So if we are ignorant of who God is, if we are ignorant of his will, if we are ignorant of the fallen state, and that we cannot save ourselves from a fallen state, if we are ignorant that we are one, that we are the body, and there is also a head. When we spread the gospel, we're really spreading the gospel in the body, right? When I'm telling you this good news, I'm not telling you the good news because I want to bore you to death. I want to annoy you to death. I don't know exactly how people interpret when we teach the gospel, when we preach the gospel. It is to share good news. It's to share healing. Just like how you administer that medication, that it has to spread through the entire body. Every Every cell of your body needs to have that medication. So that's the same thing that we do here when it comes to the gospel. Then if you are ignorant of all these things, the body, the head, how all that works, then you are ignorant of the cross. And we will be talking about the power of the cross. And to me, this is connected to death, and that's the reason why I had to have this subject first before I address the subject of the power of the cross. I like it here when Christ says, but that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. Now, Jesus Christ was actually crucified. He was, accused of blasphemy because of, only God can forgive sins. There's so many people who believe that Christ was a good man. Maybe so many people who likes the philosophy that comes from a Christian perspective, but they're just rejecting the entire message of Christ. So it's very important that you are not ignorant of the cross as well. Because, like I said, death is a process. So you first separated from God and you're experiencing this dysfunction, but there's a second death that is coming, and that's going to come right after judgment. And so when we're spreading good news, we are spreading good news because, what we are talking about is not a fairy tale. It's a reality. It is a reality that you are experiencing, and above all, you are conscious of it. You're just being, it's amazing what consciousness is and how it works. When a person tells you you're not conscious of something, then somehow you're not conscious of it, because someone that you have given that authority to tell you what to think and how to function, then have the ability to frame you how you perceive information when you're consciously aware of it, but somehow you seem like you are not. So, yes, we are going to close it right here. Therefore, since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might destroy him who holds the power of death. And that is the devil, who was holding the power of death. And when Christ died, it was to destroy him who holds the power of death. And that is what we're going to be talking about when we talk about the power of the cross. And so when I said I had to say this here and connect it to the subject of death, I was saying it because of this. So it is all connected. It is just a beautiful chain that you need to know exactly how it works and how it's connected. In that way, when you look at it, when you read this whole thing, it makes all the sense to you. Don't be afraid to seek knowledge. Don't be afraid to ask, because it will be given to you. To seek, because you will find. To knock on those doors, because they will be open for you. That's Matthew 7, verse 7. So thank you very much for giving me an ear. You guys stay blessed, and we'll see you on the next subject. Thank you.